A sentence I heard was that I don't think my heart can break anymore, but it does. We know about the attacks by federal forces. Minneapolis residents and Minnesotans are calling it a federal invasion and an occupation. I know many of you are curious about my experience. So I will share with you some things today. I will be deliberately vague about many things for people's safety. Safety and security were paramount all weekend. For the entire event. Let's just put it that way. We had to register. We each got a little wristband to prove we were there legitimately. It took preparation. 4 layers of clothing was the least of it. Preparing for the cold was the easy part. Preparing for potential violence was harder. Discerning whether I even wanted to go or not, whether I wanted to risk everything. To the point of making sure I had copies of our power of attorney for healthcare. I emailed our attorney for copies of my will, because who knows? It was a travail. But I'm not going to spend your time talking about me. What I endured is nothing. When we were greeted by local leaders, one of the indigenous folks reminded us of the historical context of this. This is not a new story, anything but. We were reminded of our resilience and the resilience of our ancestors who got us this far. And we honored the trauma. The gentleman said to honor the trauma but rise to the moment. That might be my parting message. Honor the trauma and rise to the moment. So, hundreds of clergy from across the country, I don't have an exact number, gathered in a central place, big enough to handle us all. We were warmly welcomed. And we had the situation described to us in great detail, both granular detail and in broad strokes. Some of us visited a local immigrant-centered church, tiny, smaller than this fellowship, full of immigrants in what they call the immigrant corridor of Minneapolis. Some of us walked a pilgrimage from George Floyd Square to Renee Good's memorial site. Some of us helped pack food for either a Latino mutual aid program or for an indigenous mutual aid program. Some of us visited that immigrant corridor and heard firsthand of the accounts. And some of us received an ICE roundtable discussion, panel discussion about locals' experiences with ICE. And the stories. One woman was late to our large gathering because she was delivering breast milk to a family whose 3-month-old was hungry because the mother had been abducted by ICE. We were told about how snatch and grab abductions can happen in seconds. Terrifying. While we were in that local immigrant-led church, we were put on lockdown because there was an abduction 2 blocks away. Somebody was injured and was receiving care in the church. That was sobering. Security. Everybody stay put. Stay safe. And then when we left that space, we were asked to leave in groups of 5, find somebody, any of these 100 other ministers to ride with, to go back to wherever we were going. Instant community, right? Find somebody, make a connection. Doesn't matter who. But for security. They didn't want people leaving in any more than groups of 5, but 5, to care for one another, watch out for one another. Before we left, though, during the lockdown, this tiny, tiny church decided, we're stuck there anyway. They're going to make us soup. They spontaneously made soup for 100+ people, like in minutes. Bread and fishes, loaves and fishes. It was stressed to us that no one is coming to save us. So this small church, part of its mission is rebuilding people's lives. They're very faithful, very devout, theologically very different from us. And that was part of the point of the entire thing, was reaching out, building connections with people you might not get along with on any given day. But because of the circumstances, we got to work together. This small church offers free health clinics twice a week, offered by the local university students, medical students, and a pharmacy. They provide food distribution to local immigrant families.
And so as not to forget the joy, they hold quarterly dance parties with a disco ball in their fellowship hall. We learn about organizers and others being doxxed. Have information put out on the internet so that others can find them and attack them. We learned about neighbors helping neighbors. No one's coming to save us. We have to save ourselves, protect one another. So, it is
calls, encrypted, anything else, right? Signal, the Signal app. It's a very decentralized, cooperative network. And sometimes you don't even know who you're communicating with. You just have to trust that somebody on that Signal list is committed to the same thing you are. And the organization was based on experiences in Chicago and LA and other places that have seen ICE activity. One of the women on the panel quit her healthcare job to become a community organizer. I don't know how she feeds herself. She helps create a crisis management program and rapid response network. Imagine. Some people volunteer as commuters, they call them. Get in your car, track ICE activity, follow ICE vehicles, ensure school safety, monitor schools, make sure teachers and students can get in and out okay. Drive people to work if they're scared to get to and from work. Bring people groceries, medicine. It goes as far as driving people to doctor's appointments, having to drive ahead to scope out the doctor's office to make sure there aren't ICE folks hanging around. And then bringing the person there. Just an immense amount of stress, complexity, worry. Neighborhood patrols. Every block has folks on it who are just waiting, watching. I think I have my whistle. Did some of you get whistles? Whistling when ICE shows up, alerting everyone. I saw a video of people hitting their car alarms, right? Setting off their car alarms, also to alert neighbors. The commuters then drive around and note ICE vehicle license plates. And they call them into essentially a dispatcher, a volunteer dispatcher sitting at home by the phone, taking information, relaying it to people who need to know, checking license plates against a list, a database that they're keeping. And their reports, the commuters' reports, are along the lines of an acronym called SALUTE. Tell us the size of the ICE contingent, the activity going on, location, what kind of uniforms are they wearing, what time is it, because this is all time-sensitive stuff, and what equipment do they have? Are they carrying guns? The single most effective piece in this whole thing is caring for one another's neighbors. And as I said, often anonymously. Driving people. Yeah, I covered that. And following up after abductions. Abductions happen. Kidnapping happens. People get whisked away, leaving their car, leaving their children, leaving people in the car. Neighbors being there with them and helping them with next steps. Just imagine that work. And then just as I was getting to the airport yesterday, noticed that the ICU nurse had been killed. Several of my colleagues scrubbed their plans and stayed to go back and help. So I wanted to tie in our reading today by Caitlin Curtis. Resistance is the way we use our everyday lives to exert energy against the dangerous status quo. We resist because we know there's a better way. Practicing solidarity, even sharing a table, is work that's really about being human together, grounded in the idea of belonging and kinship. When we refuse to look away from one another and instead choose to sit with one another's stories and proclaim that they matter, we are practicing solidarity. I see we're running over, so I'm going to try to cut it short. Some of the lessons coming away are monitor your own stress levels. Regulate your own limbic system. Right? Feel what you're feeling. Give yourself time, breathe. Build up your personal capacity and our communal capacity to hold one another's pain, to lend one another courage and comfort and love. Learn to be a good follower. Listen to the voices of the oppressed and the marginalized, and work to be good followers for us all. Get to know your neighbors. Build up your connections. For the congregation, make more partnerships. Partner with other organizations. Who are our neighbors? Let's find out. Let's build relationships. Let's have a block party. Let's have a picnic, right? Welcome allies. Allies you might not expect. De-escalate conflicts among one another and invite others into the movement. Build as broad a coalition as possible. It'll allow easier, faster pivoting when that becomes necessary. Pivoting was a big deal, a thing, in my experience. The organizers, behind the scenes, pivoted multiple times for what our experience was going to be, based on conditions on the ground. Where we were going to go, who we were going to talk with, what we were going to do. Pivoting. And they were able to do that pivoting because they had already established that broad coalition, all those partnerships, all those relationships. They got this together in a week. Clergy from across the country. They found a venue downtown that could hold us all because they had relationships already built with churches in the area. They fed us. They had volunteers standing by for anything we needed. The window is closing, they said, for us to save our democracy. It's time to move from purely symbolic actions to active, creative, direct, and disruptive non-cooperation, and building a civil resistance movement grounded in nonviolence. Symbolism is good. We need it. But we got to do more. And there's no shortage of why and how to do this work. They rattled off all kinds of resources. I might share them at another time. They taught us fantastic protest songs that I will share another time. Resistance requires resilience. And so whatever we can do to enhance our own resilience, we need to do. The choir sang The Work of Christmas, text by Howard Thurman. I love the one verse, I don't remember, or some verse. Exactly what we need to do, help the rebuild the nation. Yeah, those lyrics, go look them up. Howard Thurman also said, I believe with all my heart that our task is twofold. Seek how we may release to the full our greatest spiritual powers, that there may be such a grand swell of spiritual energy that existing systems will be upset from sheer dynamic. And make whatever temporary adjustments as may prove helpful in relieving intolerable situations until there is a genuine uprooting. I invite us all to consider what will our role be. Take time to discern what is it we personally need to do. What can we do together collectively? May we choose well.